Hi, friends. It's Heidi M. Sitting virtually again with another lovely person in the comedy circuit here in Ontario, Canada, Isabel Kanaan. So nice to virtually meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
I'm pretty excited to speak with you, first of all, because I know your work from the Tita Collective. And
Mm.
so I have seen you in at the Fringe festivals and other comedy events here in the city of Toronto. But, you know, tell us a little bit more about yourself, Isabel. I know that you moved to Canada when you were in your teenage years. Did you know that comedy was a thing or acting was a thing that you were going to do? How did that work out?
Yeah, so yes, my whole family moved to Canada when I was around 16. And so I was in my last year of high school. Um, and in the Philippines, I would do some performing arts like dancing, singing, acting,
Hmm.
there. But when I got here, I was like, well, I can't do that anymore. So
Oh.
yeah, because like I didn't see anyone like myself on TV back then. And
Hmm.
also, I was also dealing with like culture shock and, I had an accent and things like that. So I
Sure.
just assumed that I can't be on TV.
Mm.
So I didn't bother until later on. So I went into university for something completely different, like math. Uh,
Oh, wow. I would not guess
I
that.
and then I met someone actually from the program that I eventually graduated in, which is the acting for camera and voice program at Seneca
Oh,
College.
nice.
Yeah, and we were chatting and they told me all about it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's what I want to do."
Mhm.
So I moved into that and then the rest is history from there. But I guess it was
Mhm.
speaking about like the acting bug and all that, it was already in there from the Philippines, but I just didn't pursue it when
Mhm.
all the changes happened.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I think there haven't always been discussions about being a newcomer and at an age where it's really critical because you're in between stages, right? You're not quite a full-fledged adult, but you're almost an adult and you have what you think is your personality kind of developing, and then you're thrown into a new language, new weather, like different weather too, right? And what
Yeah,
that does to you when you don't see a lot of people like yourself. Um,
exactly.
what helped you navigate that world at the time? Did you, maybe you weren't doing it in school in terms of acting, but did you have an outlet to sort of use your creative side when you were
No,
younger?
back in the day, no.
Hmm.
I know like TikTok is a thing now, and I always look at it like, oh my gosh, if TikTok was a thing back then, that would have been my outlet for sure. But I
Hmm.
didn't have that. So it was kind of just almost like hidden away
Hmm.
in myself.
So you go to Seneca and you start to work more on your craft. How was that? How did the experience actually prepare you to moving more into like sketch comedy, which is what you've done with Cheetah Collective and other groups, and eventually TV?
So funny enough, one of the notes that my teacher gave me was, "Oh, you can find the comedy in anything." And I was like, "Okay." At first I was like, "Okay, that's a note." And then when I graduated, I started realizing, oh, the roles that I'm getting like in these plays and French plays and all that, um they're kind of all comedy. And then I
Mm.
remembered that note and I was like, huh, maybe there's something in here. So I took that note to heart and I enrolled in the in Second City, which is the
Mhm.
comedy school here.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I just went full force in that direction.
So I take it that you also do some writing then as part of
Yes.
your craft. How
Yes.
does that, how do you wear the different hats? Because I know that would be something that you probably would have done with your titas in the collective. And then eventually you moved into this great series abroad on OMNI TV. So how do you navigate wearing the different hats? And do you have a preference or how do you divide yourself
Oh,
or not?
a preference? I don't know if I have a preference. They're like it's completely different. The feeling, writing is like you're creating it all in like one, like it's more of a creation thing, and then
Yes.
acting is more an adapting thing. So I really like those two aspects of it. And how do I wear the different hats? Honestly, it it's what's that called? Compartmentalizing.
Yes.
So like if I'm wearing a writer's hat, I'm writing right now. I'm not thinking about how am I going to act this? How am I going to do this? No, it's not that at all. I'm completely writing. And then once I'm acting, I switch my hats and I'm like, okay, now I'm in acting mode. I'm not going to worry about the lines and all that. So it's just a matter of that. And once you get to the acting mode, because you're like, okay, I can't worry about the lines, you have to make sure, like time management, right? You have to make sure that these lines are like perfect, or not perfect, but like this is set by the time you put on your actor mode.
Right.
So it's a bit of a juggling act, but it's you kind of get used to it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, how long have you been doing this now? The different roles altogether? It's been a
Woo,
while,
it's been
right?
a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say since 2014-ish.
Mhm.
Yeah. Ooh.
And what would you say are some of your biggest lessons learned over this time?
Um, my biggest lessons is like, oh wow, s- listening to yourself.
Mhm.
Especially in the beginning of my writing career, I was surrounded by Canadian comedians and I thought I had to do comedy like them.
Mhm.
And so I would write like them, but it always didn't feel right.
Right.
And I do improv as well, right? So, when you're off the cuff, just going off your head, you will have these references and things that Canadian audiences probably don't necessarily know, but you think you're funny.
Mhm.
But then I realized that that's just not maybe my audience. And, like comedy is subjective.
Right.
And I have a very, unique perspective. Being a Filipino Canadian immigrant, why am I not leaning into that?
Mhm.
And when I did, and then the audiences came that could relate, and they laughed as well, and I laughed with them. And it was great. It was just like this connection. And so that was the major thing. Like, what is your perspective in life?
Right.
And that's what you should bring into your art as well, right? Like, don't
Right.
hide from it, like what I said, because at the beginning I hid from it.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's interesting because I also think there's been a shift. I've been in Toronto for a while too. I moved when I was 12, and I do remember that feeling of like, where do I fit in here, right?
Yeah.
And also trying to find. I think there's a lot of cultures who, I'm Latin America, but I know I relate to a lot of other cultures in terms of sensitivities and
Yes.
what's fun and the slipper throwing the slipper around,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
so there's certain references that we get culturally from each other that I think is really nice to be able to see more of now, either
Yeah.
at a comedy club or a sketch fest and now on TV, which I think is sort of where you're at now, that you actually have a bigger
Mhm.
platform that is reaching people of different ages. So
Yeah.
let's talk about your writing for abroad, which is on OMNI TV, and it's for those who might not know, it's a channel that does kind of focus on a lot of culturally specific programming, um, and I think it's across Canada. Is that correct?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
so yeah, so I didn't want to say it wrong. So I think it kind of gives it that audience of maybe certain places in Canada are not really well versed on our culture, but they kind of learn a little bit about our cultures through comedy. So what was that like in terms of creating abroad? Was it a pitch kind of setup, or was it a dialogue between the production company, yourself, and the TV channel as well?
Well, in the very beginning of things, like when I did learn about TikTok, I finally did dabble into it. And I used it as like my sketch diary. That's what I
Ah,
call it. And
nice.
so I would do sketches about being me, whether that's me being Filipino, immigrant, even me being an actor, I would just put up sketches on there. And the production company, Long Hope Media, saw that and said, that's the show we want to do with you. And I was like, what? Yeah. So from there, we started a conversation of like, okay, what do you mean this is the show? What would that look like? So we worked together, and then after that we pitched to the networks. And then it's so great because Omni was the one that was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. And not only that, but Omni was actually the one, because abroad is also bilingual. It's Tagalog and English, but it originally wasn't pitched that way because I didn't know that was allowed. I thought, okay, we're going to pitch to Canadian TV, so it's probably going to be in English. Omni was the one that was like, how do you feel if we make it Tagalog English? I'm like, are you kidding me? And it just opened a whole new world. It just made us more unapologetically Filipino Canadian.
Right.
And so we got so excited by that pitch from Omni, and we're like, yeah, this is the partnership we want to work with. So
nice.
That's it. It is pitching, but it's also, once it's there, it's like, let's hone this down, let's make it our own. And yeah, it's always like a collaboration of some sort. So that's really cool.
That is really cool, and I like the openness to having different languages, because I do notice that from OMNI TV that they do have an inclusion in terms of different languages, which is really, really cool, and it's also really reflective of society across Canada, more so these days as well. So you're now into 3 seasons. The third season is going to come soon, so congratulations. How quickly does the writing happen in terms of season 1 had 12 episodes, and to me that's a lot, even if it's 30 minutes. Would you say that the writing took longer from season 1 to where you're at now?
Oh, for sure, because especially we were trying to also just figure out what this show really was, right? So there were a lot of drafts, a lot more drafts in season 1. Yeah, but we did have a longer process for that. I want to say the months, but I don't even remember at this
No, that's
point.
fair. Yeah.
But it's roughly a year, like a year of writing. Well, less than a year of writing, and then the later half of the year, that's when we shoot, kind of thing. But yes, and then second season came, and we kind of like, okay, we know what we're doing now. Let's go. And then third season, we're like, oh, this is easy now. But the I don't want to say problem, but the challenge in third season is now, well, we've hit a bunch of themes already. We've hit a bunch of like characters and scenarios. What's something new now? So season 3 came, and we're like, okay, let's think outside the box. So that was the challenge for season 3, but I think we knocked it out of the park.
Nice. And I'm sure that there's excitement from the fandom too, in terms of the 3 seasons, because they've also seen certain characters come back from season 1 and season 2. Is that the case with season 3 as well? That sure, there might be less episodes, but there's specific favorites that are always coming back.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Because we have 3 seasons now, and we put it all up in social media as well, like the little clips that we have. And it's so great because we do get feedback from our audience. And I love collaboration so much. So sometimes I take those comments to heart. If they're like, ooh, this character is hilarious, I'm like, okay, perfect. Let's use them in the next season.
Oh, that's good. Because I know that my understanding is that you also use your own experience to go into the sketches that you're writing with your team. And so is that what happens, that people bring their lived experiences and you take some from the fans and
Oh, yes, for sure. Like it's such a great, it's so funny because I know it's a writing room, but it also kind of feels like therapy sometimes, like group therapy. We're coming in with our traumas and just our past, but the great thing about comedy is we spin it into something funny, and so it's kind of healing in a way. So that's really cool too.
I think so. And I was speaking with somebody else recently as well about comedy and how it really allows the people who are writing or performing to be vulnerable with us, but at the same time having that relationship, that feedback of, oh, I know what that's like, or I'm laughing, but I know that I might have cried about this way back when,
Yep,
you
yep.
know. So maybe there's just slight difference there in terms of with that with the show, you don't always get the immediate reaction versus do it in on stage. But is it the case that you have a lot of followers online, which is amazing? Is it that people are reacting more, maybe not in real time per se, but very quickly after the episodes are released?
Yeah, sometimes I'll get like DMs. So I guess they'll watch it on TV and then go to social
Ah,
media for it.
mm-hmm,
Uh, but most of the time, it's also when we put it up on our social media,
mm-hmm,
then we get like faster feedback as well. That was also something different from season one, because season one, obviously, there was no social media aspect of it. Yeah, we couldn't release anything.
right.
So it was all TV. And I was so new to that because I love audience interaction. I love audience collaboration, as I
Mm-hmm.
call it. And so when I was like, is this doing well? I don't know.
Yeah,
We only know.
what's the
Yeah, exactly. It's
barometer? Mhm.
TV. It's weird. I'm like, what is this? But when we put it up on social media eventually, oh, we started getting tons and tons. And it's so great too, because it wasn't just from Canadians, it was from people of different countries, like Filipinos from all around the world. And not only Filipinos, we would get it from people of different cultures that could just
Mhm,
relate as well. So
mhm.
oh, I love the feedback.
That's good. I think it's also evidence that there is need for this type of content, right? Like you know, in terms of we want to laugh at ourselves, but also at look at people that actually look like us, right? Or our
Yeah.
families, or our family, or whatever circumstances that sometimes there are nuances that are very culturally specific. And
Yes.
there's a room for all of that to exist with mainstream, you
Exactly.
know?
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
I
Uh,
mean, we knew, but no one listened to us.
exactly. We need to make things happen for ourselves sometimes, though, you know. But I think that's also what I liked about discovering the Tita Collective, in that I was like, oh, these are some of the things that my Filipino friends were telling me, you know, growing up. And it's like I would message my friends like, you need to see this because this is so what you told me about that you grow up in. Um, and it's always nice to be able to share in the laughter with other people too. And I think that's sort of what's happening with abroad, in that is just people are laughing across Canada and other parts of the world now with you, and kind of giving us that chance to kind of experience the culture at the same time through comedy,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was kind of losing my words there for a second. But you know, it sounds like getting ready for season three was really special for you. Congratulations, you're going to be welcoming a new member to your family. So now that you're going to be a mom, how was that preparation for season three? I know there was a lot of support from your team in terms of like, you know, filming the episodes
Mhm.
and time management, like you said. And did kind of knowing that you're going to be a mom kind of inform some of the writing as well?
Oh, yes. So originally I was scared because being, the lead in a show, you're there every day for 12 hours at least. You can even go overtime and stuff like
Sure.
that. And that was just common in the industry, right? And pre-pregnancy, I would already have a hard time with that.
Sure.
But you just have to like power through. And when I found out that I was pregnant, I was like, I don't know if I can do that. But luckily the team was like, oh my gosh, what? Yeah, that's amazing. So let's set parameters for that. So as soon as we got like the shot, the shoot, like what we needed, we were like, all right, we're out. Let's go. Work-life balance, people.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that was really cool because yes, it started because of my predicament, but then we saw that the crew, the cast, just having that work-life balance, and they didn't have to stay for 12 hours every day.
Right.
It was so cool to see because every day we'd come in, we're much more like joyous and,
Yeah.
just rested. And I think also because we had time to spend time with our family. And a lot of our crew members actually, we now call it like the abroad gift because there has always been someone pregnant from each season. And I would tease during season 2. I'm like, ooh, maybe it's me in season 3. And then it
There you go.
happened.
That's
So
really neat.
yeah,
I'm
it's
also
really
thinking,
cool.
sorry, I was also thinking that it probably allows for more efficiency as well, like the balance of being able to leave work and then go be yourselves with your family and just coming back refreshed.
Exactly, yeah. And we don't notice these things when we're in the thick of it, right? When we're
Mhm.
like, oh, this is the norm. But then when we get that, we're like, oh, it just like, you leave the cave for the first time and they're like, wow, this is what life could be.
Mhm.
So it's really cool, especially in the industry, because I find, or not even in the industry, but hustle culture in general,
Yes.
I feel like gone are the days when you would brag about, I was in the office till 3 a.m. working. I didn't see my kids because I love my job that much. I think nowadays we're getting better with our mental health
Mhm.
and looking inward and just being better about that work-life balance as well. So I'm really glad that the abroad team was able to do that for season 3 and moving forward, hopefully.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I would assume that that would be a neat thing, or maybe keeping it not just as an experiment for the one season, but moving forward, what could happen from that.
Mhm.
So what are some of the characters that people can look forward in season 3? Any favorites or any new ones?
Um, ooh, a new one that I
Can you
really
share?
like.
Can you share?
Yes, I can. I can. A new one that I really like is, so we love our teleseries.
Yes.
And we all know one of the legendary teleserie actors is Miss Cherry Hill. And so I made like a parody of her, Miss Cheryl Hill. Very different. But she's teaching a class in teleserie acting in particular.
Oh.
And oh, I just loved playing her. She was just so over the top and the slaps and every everything from like being a contrabida and all that stuff. Like I love playing her. So that's something to look forward to. Other recurring characters. We brought back Bella Porch.
Right.
Manny Pacquiao is a staple just because
For sure.
he's so easy to
He gives you
copy.
material. Come on.
Yeah, so much material, right? um, and let's see, we have others also coming back, like Nestor, who's a black market slash dance instructor, oh, black market dealer slash dance instructor. We also have these detectives coming back, and now they're investigating things that happen in a Filipino household when money goes missing. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing all those characters again. And there's a bunch more, but I can't think of them.
No, that's fair. That's fair. It's just a teaser so that people can
Yeah,
tune
just a
in and like
teaser. Yeah.
watch the entire series, season 3, by the way, folks.
Mhm.
And now just thinking in terms of like next steps, you're gonna have a new role being a mom. Are you still gonna be doing maybe some on stage sketch work, or and continuing to do the series? What do you think are it's possibly in the works?
Well, the series is it's all in the network's hands. right? Like we would love to, but we have to, see where it goes. So
That's fair.
I'm kind of just like going with the flow with whatever happens. But right now I am gonna be focusing for sure on the family because this is new for me and my and my husband. So we're like,
It's exciting.
I hear the best thing to do is to come in with an open mind of like just be ready to shift and adapt. And so that's what we're gonna do. So no like plan
Yes,
really. We're
yes.
just gonna be like, okay, we're gonna go in and see where it takes us.
See where the world or the wind blows, I suppose, is the
Exactly, yeah.
thing. Um, so I mean, I'm so excited to have met you and hear so much about the show, and I appreciate your time. I know it's a busy time for you. But for folks that want to follow you, even if you're on TV or not on TV, what is the best way to reach you? I think it's the social media platforms. Is that right?
For sure. You can find me on excuse me, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and it's my name, Isabel Kanaan. And you can also follow Abroad Comedy, same channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Excellent. And before I let you go, Isabel, are there any sort of comedy or comedians that you're excited to follow or anything on your radar that sort of inspires you in terms of your work?
Oh, well, a lot of my inspiration actually was from Happy Slip before. And I know she still does stuff right now. So that just whatchamacallit, follow her. She's OG YouTube, back in the
Yeah.
day. And as for there's just, oh my gosh, there's just so many. In terms of like, I would really like everybody to follow the cast as well, like the
Yes.
Filipino cast. They're so talented. So Joy Castro, Nico Lorenzo Garcia, Aldrin Bundock, and Justine Santiago.
Excellent. I'll be sure to put them in the description of the video so people know who they are
Yeah.
and follow them and support them in their work at abroad. It really is a fun show, if I say so myself. And I think there's always something to look forward to in the new season. So thank you so much for your time, Isabel. It's such a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you for having me.
And good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks.